Hey guys, welcome to RSQ. Chili here, and we are breaking format a little bit to do something a little bit different because we are celebrating a big milestone for the channel of hitting 10,000 subscribers, which would not be possible if it wasn't for all of you amazing people in our community, whether you're hanging out on Discord or Patreon or the channel at large. We just really appreciate all the support. We love what we're doing, and we love the fact that you're joining us on this journey. So we wanted to take a little bit of time to answer some of your lore questions / channel questions directly. So that's what we're here doing today. All the questions have been provided by you, the community. If for whatever reason your question does not get answered, I'm very sorry. I was overwhelmed by how many people reached out and had questions for us. And I tried to, number one, limit the number of questions per person to one to kind of make it a little bit fair, and also try to hit some questions that were asked by multiple people or had a similar theme. So obviously there's going to be some spoilers for Horizon Zero Dawn ahead, so if you don't want to be spoiled, play the game and then come back to this video, but for now, let's get started. Let's start with one from one of our amazing patrons, Daniel Benner. I haven't researched the machines and their purposes closely enough to speculate too much about this myself, but I am curious as to how they would be decommissioned as natural life returned. Larger animal life would take over some of the terraforming tasks as they were introduced, so would they replace machines or just coexist? So Daniel, that is a very, very interesting question, one that has puzzled us in the lore community for a long time, really concerning what would the world look like if Apollo worked exactly like it was supposed to. So that way the human populace is educated, and then knowing about technology, what would Gaia's reborn world really look like and what was it supposed to look like? So I think that's the root of your question. As far as more animals being reintroduced, that is something that Artemis was intended to do, but only after human intervention was established. They were educated enough, and then from there, kind of more dangerous or larger species could be reintroduced onto the planet once humanity kind of knew how to deal with them and become kind of a steward of conservation. As far as kind of seeing what aquatic machines will be there in the frozen, not the frozen wilds, the Forbidden West, same initials, I expect we're going to see a whole bunch more stuff, and yeah, really, really excited. Next question. Karma with a 4 writes, is it possible that the Odyssey Project could still be around and the supposed antimatter containment mistake was a lie? If so, the Odyssey could have sent the signal that awoke Hades. So this one has been another great mystery of Horizon. What happened to the Odyssey Project? And if you're unaware of the Odyssey Project, we obviously have some videos that go into greater depth about it, but long story short, it was a project at the time of the Faro Plague that was working alongside of Zero Dawn to kind of achieve the same goals, but to be able to achieve that in space. They had a alpha build of Apollo called Homer on board. The kind of birthing pods that we see in Aletheia 9 were mostly supplied by the Odyssey Project under the stewardship of Far Zenith, which is the kind of governing group of that. And that's really where it comes down to play. Far Zenith is a very mysterious group within the world of Horizon. Not a lot is known about them. There's only one figure that was ever revealed to the public. And since that's the case, there's a lot of speculation kind of surrounding what happened to it. I'm not sure if that is the reason why the signal occurred that kind of awoke Hades and the other subfunctions, but I do think it is an integral piece if we're ever going to bring back Apollo, because it's been totally purged, but luckily there's an alpha build of Apollo, like I said, called Homer aboard the Odyssey Project. So if we ever hope to bring Apollo back, we're going to need Homer. Good question. Horizon the Series asks, in the trailer for Forbidden West, I noticed that the tribespeople were taking over the machines with some sort of black tendrils that looked like they would have been from a corruptor or Hades. So, is it possible that after the extinction program was purged, Hades is now choosing to help Sylens without the goal of ending all life? One thing that I think is really important to distinguish between the Faro Machines and Hades is that even though we see overridden machines or corrupted machines kind of during the looming shadow, kind of working with Hades to make that happen, the ability to override machines has nothing to do with Hades. That is entirely a Faro chariot line thing, specifically the scarab, or as they know it in the 31st century, as a corruptor. So the way that Aloy overrides machines, the way Sylens is able to do it, that's all from that ancient Faro technology. It's not Hades. So whether or not Hades is choosing to work alongside Sylens, I think has less to do with the tendrils than a lot of people might think. It's very associated and intertwined with Hades in the first game, but you can have those two independent of each other. Seems like Hades is under the what's a nice way to put this? He's a prisoner of Sylens right now, or it is a prisoner of Sylens right now, and probably that technology that's being used by that tribe was introduced by Sylens, being that he's one of the only people that really know how it works, and that makes him dangerous. Whether or not Hades has put aside its agenda, so to say, I'm not sure if it's ever going to be able to do that, kind of fight against its base programming so much. But as far as those tendrils, I would say that's a very similar thing to what we see in Horizon 1, and Sylens, in my opinion, is definitely at the heart of that. Next question. This one comes from eMechanism85. Is there a reason why Sylens speaks more articulately and is more technical than his Banuk counterparts? The blue glowing machine parts embedded in some people's skin looks like it should have health effects. Has Horizon Zero Dawn ever confirmed this? Would it be crazy to think that Sylens could be a malfunctioning servitor? So let's address the first part of that question, as far as why is Sylens a little bit more articulate than the rest of his Banuk counterparts. Number one, even though he does have the Banuk kind of identifying traits of the wires, which we'll get into in a second, there is some speculation that Sylens may not be Banuk at all. He claimed to be a Banuk shaman, but when they went to visit his Werek, there was no evidence of that. He kind of went in and stole a bunch of holy relics from the Banuk, and they never saw him again. So he could come from an entirely different place. As far as him being a malfunctioning servitor, we haven't seen a lot of advanced servitors in the game. The stuff that we see within Aletheia 9, the servitors had a really hard time adjusting to anything beyond their initial role of rearing young children. So the ones we've seen have been very limited in their capabilities. So maybe, but I'm going to go with this kind of unlikely, as cool as a concept as that might be. And as far as the wires go, that is less of a technological thing and actually kind of harkens back to a Banuk cultural belief. If you watch our video on the Banuk, we get into greater detail, but really it is a homage to the originator of their tribe. Her name was Banuk, and she kind of became one with the blue light for a time, having the kind of compared to weaving through her like snakes. So when Banuk shamans or whomever in the tribe kind of pierce themselves with those machine wires, it's in an effort to become a more perfect vessel for the blue light, because humans are not really a great vessel in their opinion to do so. So that is definitely a Banuk spiritual thing. I don't think it grants any health benefits, but in their minds, it brings them closer to the blue light and the machine spirit. Next question. Zombie Kane writes, text data point 34 entitled Artemis Status, in discussing the pioneer organisms produced by Artemis to aid the reconstruction of the biosphere, Alpha Charles Ronson lists microorganisms and insects, rabbits and hawks, foxes and wolves. While it's easily possible that the mention of wolves is just wishful thinking, is there any chance we see a greater array of wildlife in Horizon Forbidden West? Really good question there, Zombie Kane. I think there's no doubt that we will see a greater array of wildlife in the Forbidden West, being that we're going to an entirely new biome as far as the types of creatures that'll be reintroduced there. Kind of harking back to our first time we addressed this in the video, I'm not sure if we're going to see anything beyond Phase 1 organisms, like the list that you mentioned. We haven't seen a lot of wolves, mostly because these early people released were not supposed to reintroduce those type of larger animals like we talked about before. So whether or not we see any type of creatures like large predators that could potentially endanger an early human population, I think that's going to probably have to wait until sometime around when humanity is educated enough to reintroduce the rest of Artemis's animal life. That's something that Aloy could potentially do, but as of right now, I don't think we've seen any evidence of anyone doing that, but could happen. Might see wolves. If we do, I'd be kind of surprised, but there is precedent in the lore here, like you mentioned, so we'll see. Next question. These next few come from our Discord community. Cedra Forgehammer writes, do you remember what your first impression of Horizon Zero Dawn was when you first heard about it, and did that change at all when you first played it? This question asker had never heard of Horizon Zero Dawn before. I was just browsing the PS Store one evening shortly after it came out and saw a game about robot dinosaurs, and I bought it on the spot. So yeah, the first time that I encountered Horizon Zero Dawn, a friend told me about it, and then my now wife was kind of talking to me about it a little bit. We hadn't played it yet. Luckily, I didn't have any spoilers for the game. I was unaware that it was our planet. You know, you kind of go in at a base level where we're talking about, hey, this is robot dinosaurs versus bow and arrow, and you know, the concept was pretty cool. Then lo and behold, there's this amazing story and this wonderful world building that went around it. So obviously it kind of hits a lot of checks a lot of boxes for me personally. I love world building, I love lore, I love really just getting into a really fleshed out world, and also game mechanics are really wonderful too. And as far as this medium goes, you need both of those things. As wonderful as it is to have an amazing story, if it's not compelling to actually go on that, go through that story and play through it, you know, obviously that's going to get lost, and that's unfortunate. But Horizon did a wonderful job in both of those things. So my first impressions were definitely base level fun at first, and then obviously the more you play and the more you discover, it's just an abundance of powerful and moving history waiting to be explored. So yeah, definitely fell in love with the game right away. Next question. MyLife048 asks, often in sequels, we never go back to the original map. It looks like in Horizon Forbidden West, we will not go back to the original map. Do you think we will see the Sun King and get the music of Meridian still? Do you think some machines from the original will not be in this game? As far as the map is concerned, I am kind of on the same page that we're not going to be able to go to the full map of Horizon. I've only ever seen that really in recent memory, Red Dead Redemption 2. But I would say that if we are going to get any part of the map, Sunfall makes sense. In my mind, it makes a really good jumping off point because it's kind of the beginning of where the Forbidden West begins. And it can be a good jumping off point for Aloy to travel west and also have a touchstone to the Karja and some of the cultures that we've seen before. So that would make sense to me. And as far as machines that might not be seen in the original or from the original game, not seen in the sequel, I would say that we're probably going to see most of them. Some maybe like the Frostclaw and the Fireclaw that are so very regionally attached in the frozen wilds, where you know they're very cold and icy, or they have that kind of molten engineering that comes from being built on top of a caldera in the Epsilon Cauldron. I would say that if you are gonna cut any of those, which are too bad because they're some of my favorites, narratively I would say those two make the most sense. Good question. Time for the next one. Shadi Gotti writes, how do you make your research for your videos? How much time does a video take? As far as my process for making videos, it kind of varies on the project. So my Metal World videos took quite a bit longer because I had to do research on the real world history of the locations, obviously refresh myself in lore stuff, then go to those places and film them, and then cut and edit and voice over all those things together. So that's kind of like a unique circumstance. That whole project took me about a year to do, to what I felt was quality enough for the channel. But most videos, I would say, whether they're lore bites or legends, kind of depending on how much meat on the bone you can dig into it. It starts off with, for me, writing the script, so I know exactly what I'm going to kind of be talking about and what shots I'm going to need. So I go in and write that out completely. After that, I go and do game capture. I write myself a shot list of the things that I want to be seen in the video and kind of check those off, and also any kind of data points that need screenshots that will go in the video. And then after that, I go in and do voiceover, and then I cut the footage together and then kind of put it into the finished product. So as far as like the time that it takes, if I was under pressure, I could probably do the entire thing in, I don't know, maybe 3 days. but I really like to give myself some time, let it breathe, and also make sure that it's not rushed and it's how I want it to be. So the script writing definitely takes the longest. And then next, time-wise, it would be the game capture. If anybody's ever done video editing, it's a time-intensive thing, even if you're kind of quick about it. And then the voiceover, because I have some dyslexia stuff, so I have to take a couple takes to get it the way that I want it to and say it like I wrote it on the page. So that's kind of the writing process. A lot of research done. I try to refer directly to the data points as far as the information that I'm getting. The wiki does an amazing job summarizing all that stuff. I just want to make sure that the information that I'm getting is like straight from the horse's mouth. Get it straight from the data points, put it into the videos. And that's kind of the short story of how those get made. Thank you very much for asking. Icy writes, with regard to your video on language stating the characters still speak English, what do you make of the Nora performers in Mother's Heart singing what sounds like a tribal language? Yeah, that was really one of the most interesting things that I found as far as how the language works in the game. And if you haven't seen that video, I think it's a lore bite, the language one. But as far as the tribal songs go, I think if you were to make it the most accurate version of what language would transition to, like we mentioned in the video, and the devs made this call too, it would be a much more stylized, different language than what we speak today. But for sake of immersion, I would say that they made the right call, so that way you don't have to go through another hurdle to get into the game. So that would be, that tribal language I would say is more of a nod to that evolution and kind of what it would sound like. So I think, if we could create a perfect kind of scenario where this is what it looked like, that would be their language. But being that we need to make the game accessible, it would be, you would put it in English, just like you did, or whatever language that you natively speak. So that tribal language, I just say, is more of a nod to, yes, we understand that these languages would change over time, but to make this accessible, we decided to kind of forego that and just put it, small mentions. Good question. Time for the next one. I really sincerely apologize if I butcher this one, but Taras Polzinski writes, Hi RSQ, the production of your videos are phenomenal and the prose of your speaking is clear and amazing. Has any of your previous professions or hobbies been related to writing and verbal/visual presentation? My question is to understand if RSQ was your first shot at this type of content or if you've converged onto your skill level over many, many years. Well, first of all, thank you very much. That is an incredible compliment. Very, very humbling. I have had video editing experience in the past. I've had a very eclectic life as far as career goes. I've done sports journalism. I've done AM/FM radio. Like I said, quite a bit of video editing, and this has been kind of a big passion project for me, at least to start with. So I would say a lot of stuff has come together to this point. I feel like I've gotten better over time. But nothing quite to this extent as that I've done on my own and not working for somebody else. So number one, once again, I'm so flattered that you really enjoy the quality of it. It means the world to me. I really want to produce a really solid content that is both visually very striking, because the game is striking, and just accurate and compelling stories. And I've talked about this on podcasts and things like that before that I've been on. Really, if I can just do the game justice, then I am very happy, because the beauty of it is unparalleled. The story is so wonderfully thoughtful and executed. So if I can just do it justice, then I would say that I'm doing my job. So yeah, thank you very much. The writer of our next question wished to remain anonymous. Even though the Tenakth live south and the Banuk live in the northeast, do you think we will see them in Horizon Forbidden West? Or will they be saved for the third game? Well, I really sincerely, the Banuk are my favorite tribe. I hope that we get to visit them a little bit more. I doubt that they will be nearly as prominent in this game because they got such a wonderful treatment in the Frozen Wilds. The Tenakth, though, there's a good chance that tribe that we see in the Forbidden West is that tribe, whether or not geographically it's the one that we really know of or an offshoot of that. They're very militaristic. One of those, it's funny, like if my memory serves me correctly, when the Red Raids happened, they're like the one tribe that the Carja just kind of didn't mess with that much because they are so vicious. So if that is that tribe, the Tenakth could very much be in the Forbidden West. I would love to see that tribe get a little bit more fleshed out. It seems like we might get that treatment with the Utaru. So yeah, I would really hope so. So kind of my answer to that is I don't think, as much as I would like them to be there, that the Banuk are going to be very prominent in this game, but I do see the Tenakth being a very big possibility. I think that could totally happen. Our Aiko writes, "Hey, greetings from Brazil. I love your work as I love this game. So it's a simple question. Where is Thebes located? Is it in the Forbidden West?" Well, first of all, obrigado, thank you. And as far as, so firstly, where is Thebes? What is Thebes? I think for those of you who don't know what Thebes is the personal apocalypse bunker of Ted Faro, where he presumably lived out the rest of his life and died alone after he murdered the alphas of Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah, so where is it? There is a definite possibility that it's in the Forbidden West. He was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. He went to school in California. So there's a couple touchstones there if he like founded his business in California before, you know, we have the FAS kind of headquarters where we see it in Horizon. So those two places could definitely be kind of a good candidate to where Thebes would be. I can't imagine that they would drop that in the lore and not have us explore that place, whether it's in this game or the third game. I don't know, but I would say it's a definite possibility, especially since those two places, specifically, he went to college in California, he was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. Could be. Certainly hope so. You know, whether or not as many people would personally like to kill Ted Faro by themselves, I really do hope that we get to kind of uncover more about what happened to him after Zero Day. Tyler Boyce writes, "What national features or ruins of the old ones do you most hope to visit in Horizon Forbidden West?" This has been one that I've thought about for a really long time. If I were going to pick any ruins in the Forbidden West, it would be kind of intermediary between Sunfall and California, and I would love to go to a post-apocalypse Las Vegas. I would love to see how Horizon does Las Vegas, because I've always thought, like, just as a thought experiment, what would aliens think if humanity's been gone and they discovered Las Vegas? Like, what is this place? Like, that has all like these miniature versions of landmarks and these crazy weird machines. I would just love to see what kind of justification a tribal society would find for this insane place that just happens to exist in our world. So that is my pick. There's a ton of really cool architecture there. You know, there's the stratosphere, which is that giant kind of tower that goes into the sky. There is the Luxor, which is that black glass pyramid. There's just all kinds of stuff that you could do with Las Vegas. So Las Vegas, that is my answer to that question. Really hope we get it. Boz Base writes, "Hi RSQ, congratulations on hitting 10K. I have two questions. Number one, what other games do you play in your free time? And number two, what would you think about a Horizon game in a different part of the world, like Australia, East Asia, etc.?" First of all, thank you very much. We're very happy about hitting 10K. We are super stoked. And for your other questions, I do play other games. My wife and I are very, very much fans of Monster Hunter World. We play that game a lot. We both really enjoy kind of RPG stuff. I played Red Dead Redemption, Red Dead Redemption 2, and even before that I played Red Dead Revolver, so I'm a really big fan of that series. Both of us can get lost in Skyrim incredibly easily at various points in time. As far as video games are concerned, I would say like those are the biggest time sinks that we are into. Definitely going to play Ghost of Tsushima when it comes out. That looks amazing, so definitely want to play that. Yeah, so, and other games that kind of pop up that aren't quite as like, story driven, like I love Smash Brothers. That's one of my all-time favorite series. And huge Pokemon fans. We are very, very much Pokemon kids, so we grew up on that. So that's kind of a short list of the games we like to play. And Overcooked, can't overlook Overcooked. It's amazing. And the second part of that question, yeah, Horizon is a global story, so if you're going to take that, you could really put it anywhere, because there's evidence of cradles being located across the planet. Probably around 9 to 10 cradles would be my estimation of how many exist, and there's at least one that we know of in Africa, there's one in Asia, so there is not only kind of cool gameplay potential there, but also narratively they have made sure in the lore that it is a global phenomena, so you could take the story anywhere. The trick is getting Aloy there is kind of the tricky part, because unless some tribe has mastered like Leif Erikson style boat transport across the ocean, might be a little bit difficult, but if that happens, hey, sky's the limit. Johan Cohen writes, do you think Gaia can be resurrected, or is she gone forever? Can Gaia be fully resurrected? I would say yes. That's kind of the principal reason why Aloy was born in the first place, to kind of be able to bring her back. But it kind of depends on what you're referring to, the level of being brought back. Can Gaia be reinstated to the system that exists right now? Sure, but to be really brought back, now we're talking about bringing back Apollo. So we got to be able to do that. The Odyssey Project is a huge part of that, and we got to make sure that we get the Homer Project from the Odyssey to really bring her back. Kevin Lee writes, do you still replay the game? Replaying the game, I probably replayed the game three times in total. I played it through normally, I did it on ultra hard, and then kind of playing through to get different parts of the game. I'd say I probably played the game over 3 times, as far as actually playing it goes, because there's a difference between going into the game and shooting and filming it with game capture and actually playing it. So I would say the last time I replayed it would be a little while ago. I'm definitely going to sit down before the release of Forbidden West and do one final playthrough before we get started. But yeah, I'd say probably like 3 times, and depending on how long we have to wait when in 2021 we get the game, might play it 1 or 2 times again, so we'll see. And Noman writes, do you think there is or should be more classes of Faro Machine besides the 3 we know? I always thought there should have been more, as to fill all the roles that an army would need, such as a flying robot for air support, a ground unit for air defense, or a dedicated support unit for repairing other bots or bringing materials to the Titans to make new ones. This is an interesting thought experiment here, because there's a couple things. I think number one, we probably have seen all of the chariot line machines. However, that does not mean that we could not see other automated military technologies of the past. Because it's not like, Faro dominated the sector, but they were by no means the only company that was kind of in that business. So whether or not they're Faro machines or not, I think that's definitely up for debate. We could see other machines that were not built by Faro, but also we could find other machines that were built before the chariot line that Faro potentially could have done. So do I think we'll see any new chariot line models? No. Could we see more Faro tech and other Faro machines that are not chariot line? Could be. Be pretty cool. Once again, horribly sorry if I butcher this, but Sander Vandermeulen writes, will we see Hades back? Will Hades be back? I will be absolutely positively shocked if we didn't. That was a huge kind of cliffhanger that they dropped at the end of Horizon. So I would be shocked if we didn't see Hades in some capacity in this game. I think he's coming back. We'll say this next one just comes from Dickinson. How do you think the underwater combat would work? Or would this be a case of you get spotted, you die? As excited as I am about the underwater mechanics of Forbidden West, like anybody who's played video games before, the underwater parts of video games I don't think are anybody's favorite, so you're going to have to do something incredibly innovative to really make it, A, unique, and 2, enjoyable. I was kind of thinking about it a little bit, and because, you know, I've played The Witcher as well, and you kind of swim underwater and you shoot something, but there's not a lot going on down there. So I think the way that you could kind of differentiate it, and you see it a little bit in the trailer, is maybe you make it a lot more interactive. You can hide in kelp, you can kind of set traps in the water. So maybe it might not be the exact same, and you might have to be a little bit more clever about how you go, about it. But if you can interact with the environment more and it feels more visceral, and you're not just floating in the void, I think that would be a good place to start. Matthew Brown asks, what do you think the red meteors were? Any chance that it is somehow related to the Odyssey Project? What are the chances Vast Silver hijacked the project and is now using it as an off-planet base? Obviously pretty far-fetched, but you gotta dream. Oh, those red meteors. Oh my goodness. Yes, that's like the one thing that I think is, because with our trailer breakdown, we covered a lot of stuff, and we only briefly covered the meteors because, man, it's hard to say. There's a couple references to space in Horizon. Number one is the Odyssey Project, but also there were companies that did mining projects off planet before 0 Day happened. So there, we could dig into some of those more obscure pieces of lore. It could be something with the Odyssey Project. Maybe it was kind of destroyed, but pieces of it were floating in orbit, and now they're coming back down to Earth. So definitely purposeful. I do not think that was just a cool effect. I think there's something to that. Could be the Odyssey, could be other kind of space exploration or projects that had happened before 0 Day. I wish I could give you more. I can't wait to find out. There just isn't a lot to dig into there for us at the moment, but we'll have to see. Ninja Badger writes, as for Horizon Zero Dawn, in an alternate reality where you controlled the direction of the storyline, what would you want to see in the Forbidden West? And from that, what would you like to happen in the final chapter of the trilogy? If I could determine the storyline of Horizon myself, where would I see it go? Oh my goodness. That could be the subject of a whole video. Luckily, the people at Guerrilla are doing an amazing job, so if I were to throw these out there, it's not because I think it's like, oh, they've made a mistake. It's just a different direction. For me, it would be something, I do like the fact that we're going into the Forbidden West, be kind of a jumping off point in Sunfall like we talked about before. I would love to see Vast Silver, if it's not, kind of be the focal point of this series. I think it really plays well with kind of the themes that Horizon has established so far. So kind of very short synopsis, it would definitely have to do with Vast Silver, kind of rebalancing the biosphere, and then in my opinion the third game should be about reclaiming Apollo, so that way the world can be reborn the way Gaia originally intended it to be. Next question. Hector writes, I had a very scary shower thought. What if the Aloy birthed in Aletheia 7 was not the only Aloy to be birthed? What if there were other Aloys out there with other tribes? Based on this line of thinking, what if there is a clone of Ted Faro out there somewhere? Oh, the old Ted Faro clone wish, just so we can bring it into him ourselves. So, with Aloy being born in Aletheia 9, and if you're more curious about this, definitely check out our Lightkeeper video. It kind of digs into, how is Aloy there to begin with. I'm not sure if we're going to see any more Aloys birthed, how many there were intended with the Lightkeeper protocol. There's at least one, or theoretically there's at least one genetic copy of every alpha that could be available to clone. Whether or not that's happened is kind of up to speculation. There could potentially be a Ted Faro clone out there, if his genetic material for some reason was collected for Lightkeeper. And also there's a couple things that the alphas never knew about that Ted Faro was up to, like the Omega clearance. Obviously the alphas never had any idea what that was. That was put in by Faro programmers without their knowledge. So that could be another thing that happened before he kind of hunkered down in his bunker of Thebes. So I'm not sure if we're going to see any more Aloys out there in the world. But as far as a clone of Ted Faro, I don't think it's very likely. But for all those people who are still holding on to hope, I'd say that it could happen. It wouldn't be totally out of left field. I just find it to be kind of unlikely. But who knows? This question comes from Stefan Z. Think we're going to be able to ride them pterodactyls, my guy? Also, what kind of robots are you looking forward to see or speculate are going to be in part 2? Are we going to see are we going to be able to fly on the pterodactyls? And I think they kind of look like storks still. I'm standing by it. They have feathers. They have feathers on the end. Now, obviously, there are schools of thought that dinosaurs did have feathers too, so I'm just saying. there's some bird-esque features, but you know, evolutionarily that would make sense. But I definitely think we're going to be able to do some kind of flying in this game. I'm not sure if those are big enough to fly on. I think maybe we harvest machines and kind of have a glider thing like there was in the last Zelda game. So maybe kind of like a Breath of the Wild sort of gameplay mechanic where you kind of have a hang glider. But I would love it to see if we could fly something like a Stormbird or something. And as long as we're able to ride more Hephaestus-oriented machines, like a Ravager, where you can like have a mounted cannon on top of that thing, that's what I'm really looking forward to. But I think in some capacity, we're going to be able to fly on something. Next question. And last, but certainly not least, comes from our subscriber, Quantic. What is your personal wish list for Horizon Forbidden West? The wish list. Okay. We're going to keep it short and simple because I could keep going on this for forever. Number one, more eclectic and fleshed out melee combat. I think a lot of people feel this way. They had some kind of cool elements there. I want to be able to pick different weapons, and I want them to feel different and also kind of be powerful, right? You know, the bow feels so powerful, and they did such a good job with the bow in the first one. I would like to have a similar kind of feeling with, you know, a spear or a sword or a halberd or something like that. So number one for me is that. Two, getting that underwater combat correct. It seems like it's going to be a really big focal point in this game, considering where we're going as far as like the California coast and whatnot. So getting that right and having a way that it's going to be interesting to come back to again and again, and not something that you just have to get through. I think it's very challenging, very ambitious, but as of this moment in time, Guerrilla has earned nothing but my respect and trust, so I think that they're going to do a wonderful job with that. And if I were going to pick one other thing, oh man, if they are going to do co-op, I would say that maybe you do it something like Monster Hunter, where it's a separate game mode that you can kind of go in and hunt several machines together and maybe earn different rewards that way. Actually, and one last thing, I love the fact that, and I, you know, this is probably super cliche, but I love the fact that Horizon didn't have any microtransactions. I loved it. Right? You could play the whole game because you paid for the whole game, and the DLC I thought was reasonably priced, and it was so worth it. Oh my gosh, the Frozen Wilds. If you haven't played the Frozen Wilds, what are you doing? After you're done watching this, download it, play it. It's amazing. So yeah, I would say, kind of to summarize, more eclectic and fleshed out melee, really getting an exciting underwater combat and exploration that you can go back to and want to go back to. 3 was, if you're going to do co-op, don't really intertwine it too much with the main story. Make it a different game mode that you can kind of go through and earn different rewards, kind of like the Hunter's Lodge in the base game. And then finally, just kind of keep it free. Keep those microtransactions away. All right, Guerrilla, you did an amazing job last time. If you just do that, we're going to be really, really happy. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for your questions. I loved answering them. Apologies if I didn't get to yours specifically. There was a ton of them. I was super flattered, and if we had answered all of them, I would have been here for like 17 years. So thank you so much. 10,000 subscribers. I cannot wait until the PC release, and then finally in 2021 when Forbidden West comes out, and we will be covering it all. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and keep questing.